Good evening, guys, and welcome to our day two of our devotional series, which is entitled The Weary World Rejoices. And tonight's topic or story would be about Mary, one of the characters that night of the Nativity. See, Mary, she had every right to be scared during that time because she was so young. She was engaged to be married, and bigla na lang nalaman niya na she was pregnant. And to top all of it, ang nagsabi sa kanya ay isang angel, a spiritual being that most people would be really terrified if they see one. And as Mary processed the news na sinabi sa kanya ng angel, we can only imagine kung ano-ano yung mga bagay na tumatakbo sa isipan ni Mary when she heard the news. Marireject ba, itatakwil ba siya ng pamilya niya? Pagchichismisan ba siya? Would people of the town make assumptions about her? Paniniwalaan ba siya ni Joseph? Would she be rejected? And all of those stuff, no, na hindi mga magaganda na pwedeng mangyari kay Mary because of that. But the thought Mary chose to settle on was not of fear, but of faith. And she mentioned, I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true. And that is from Luke chapter 1, verse 38. And later on, Mary visits Elizabeth. And Elizabeth said something about Mary. You are blessed because you believe that the Lord would do what he said. And that is on verse 45. And it would be nice to say na yung typical response sana natin is kagaya ng response ni Mary when she received that news. A song of praise and a hopeful expectation. But in reality, if we're going to be real, alam natin na yung fear, it creeps into our minds and soul like it's a dark cloud, no, before the storm. Minsan nagpapatalo tayo sa fear. And sometimes yung response natin, susuko lang ba tayo? Are we going to isolate ourselves? Or are we going to fill our minds with what ifs habang tayo ay talo ng ating mga takot? And let's look at Mary's response after she visited Elizabeth. She turned her attention to God in a song known as the Magnificat, which means my soul glorifies the Lord. And there are a few things in this song na makakatulong to us to ground ourselves in hope when fear swirls around. Number 1, Mary began to praise, because this song, the whole song, is about singing God's glory. And though Mary had so many questions about sa kanyang sitwasyon and about what it meant to actually give birth to the Savior of the world, not just an ordinary baby, but the Savior of the world. And she opened with rejoicing instead of concern. Number 2, Mary remembered her part in God's story. In verse 48, Mary said, For he took notice of his lowly servant girl. From now on, all generations will call me blessed. And alam ni Mary that God is in control of her situation. He is the one who created and empowered her. She was his creation, and that reminder allowed Mary to focus on the truth of who she was and who God is. And she was reminded that her part sa story ni God was not the end of the story. And number 3, Mary remembered God's goodness and justice. Mary didn't just reflect on God's promises and blessing to Israel. She reflected also on how God could also set all the wrong things that happened in and to Israel to make it right. And that is from verses 51 to 53. Si Mary, she dispelled, inalis niya yung takot with praise. She put aside the insecurity with the truth of who God was and remembering her role in His story. She looked past, hindi niya na inisip yung mga concerns ng rejection, ng pagchichismis, ng mga assumptions na pwedeng gawin sa kanya ng tao. And the only thing na inisip ni Mary is that she served a God of justice. And because of those things, Mary could hope. And so can we. And I know na marami sa atin na magiging mahirap yung mag-celebrate ka ng Christmas sa taong ito, especially of what is happening in the world right now. But I pray that you will also, or you will still find hope in the midst of scary circumstances, yung mga uncertainties, sa kabila ng fear and troubles na nararanasan natin. Because there will always be hope in Jesus Christ. Now, let us end this video with a Bible verse from Luke chapter 1, verses 46 to 50. And Mary said, My soul doth magnify the Lord, and my spirit hath rejoiced in God my Saviour. For he hath regarded the low estate of his handmaiden. For behold, from henceforth all generations shall call me blessed. And for he that is mighty hath done to me great things, and holy is his name. And his mercy is on them that fear him from generation to generations. So stay blessed, stay safe, and have a good night.